All right, welcome everyone. We have another episode of Fireside Chat with Kila and Ben here from QiDao. We've got a great guest today from Beefy Finance, Moon Cow. Welcome.
Hey guys, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Looking forward to chatting.
Absolutely. So, Moon Cow, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is
Yeah,
Moon
sure.
Cow?
I'll definitely be talking more about Beefy than myself, but yeah, my background, I got into crypto around 2016 as an investor and started working full time 2018. And before that, I was working in traditional startups, and my journey in crypto has gone from sort of working for big exchanges and mining pools into being full time DeFi. And in the last couple of months, that's meant full-time Beefy. My job was actually voted by the DAO, so everybody kind of got to see what I'm going to earn, what I've got to do, and everyone's my boss, I guess.
Okay,
That's perfect. Very Dao spirit there.
Yeah.
I like that.
great. What got you? I mean, dive deeper about why Beefy. Why'd you get really involved with Beefy?
Yeah, so I guess Beefy came up with Binance Smart Chain around September of last year, alongside other projects like Venus and Pancake Swap. And everything was new then. You know, people were looking for an evolution from Ethereum with the high fees and some other barriers to adoption. And so seeing some of the most credible products on Ethereum kind of getting replicated on Smart Chain where the fees were much less, it was quite easy to start looking around and try and find a good project to be a part of. You know, Pancake Swap took the Uniswap model, and I would say Beefy Finance took the Yearn Finance model and has done really well with it.
Okay.
Perfect, yeah.
No, I like that. I like that. And then how's just real quick, how's your experience on Polygon so far?
Yeah, I mean it's been really exciting for Beefy. All of that growth came last year on BSC, and I think the growth on Polygon has been for similar reasons. You know, lower fees, more accessible products, more innovation, because you know there's not really any BSC maxis or Polygon maxis to get in the way of what you want to build. You just build what the users actually want, and people will come to those platforms. So we've seen exactly the same thing on Polygon, and you know it's not just about what we build, especially with Beefy Finance being an optimizer. It's also what our partners can build. So you know, platforms like Chi and other platforms that we are working closely with, they've all been really inviting on this Polygon network, and they've been really open to working with us, whether it's been about increasing rewards for users or just being really upfront about small changes in their smart contracts after our due diligence and going through all of those things. So I think the growth that we've seen on Polygon is partly the usability for the users and partly the partnerships opportunities for us as a platform.
Beautiful. Now, for the users that may not know too much about Beefy, how would you describe Beefy to somebody that's been in DeFi for a few years?
I would say like we're the most efficient yield optimizer, and the reason that we're the most efficient yield optimizer, and I'm talking for the experts here, I can maybe give a bit of a different description afterwards, but I think this efficiency comes from a few places. One is that we're always focusing on actually rewarding the users with more of what they actually staked. So we don't have this reward token that has this kind of infinite supply and you have to go and sell it and restake it and do all of those things yourself. We're actually taking those reward tokens from other platforms and converting it back into the thing you actually staked originally. And I think that's what makes us pretty unique within DeFi, and is making us an attractive prospect, whether it's on Polygon, whether it's on BSC, but we're also on Phantom, Avalanche, Hecko, and we'll be targeting things like Arbitrum once they roll out.
Yeah, your growth has been quite impressive. You guys are definitely spreading out. And I guess so for the newbies, for the people that might not know too much about these, yield optimizer words, how would you explain Beefy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think one way to describe it is it's just another savings account, right? Like it's a place where you can put your assets and you're going to get the best returns for those assets, really like than anywhere on the planet due to our mechanics. So instead of going to your bank and getting like 0.1% or maybe 0.5% if you get a high yield in your bank account, you can put things into Beefy and you can get On assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum, 10-20% annual APYs. On more exotic assets like cake and banana, or something like Quick from QuickSwap, you can get 200% APY. And I think these like 200% APY is already blowing people's minds, if they're coming from traditional finance. But then we have like even newer projects where they're sort of really accelerating their growth and trying to reward people as much as possible, and you can actually get sort of thousands and thousands of percent. And obviously what I'd say to those new users is probably start with something that you understand. So if you understand Bitcoin, maybe you use Beefy Finance to increase your APY on Bitcoin. And if you want to like really take some risks, you could go and find out about those more Deacon projects.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. I think that's a good explanation. I think more
accessible. But I will add one thing, like I think what some people who come to the platform and they want to get those APYs, they kind of want to know, how is this working, right? Like how are they actually generating that? And so, we're relying on a lot of partner platforms that already generate interest for users. So there's kind of a few ways in the DeFi ecosystem already where you can generate an APY or generate interest. AMMs, lending platforms, they generate a lot of revenue from being a liquidity provider, and they're rewarding you with transaction fees and often also some reward tokens. But there's also lending platforms like Qi, which will have some rewards around them as well. And so we can take some of those rewards. We're auto compounding them. So like on Polygon, we're compounding 10, 20 times a minute your assets. So anything that you can kind of do on DeFi, we're going to take that for you. We're going to like 10x it, 20x it, and really push those APYs.
Okay. So how would that be? I'm guessing that being on a chain like Polygon would help with that optimization quite a bit versus say mainnet, where gas fees are high. Like you just said, you're auto compounding multiple times a minute.
Yeah, fees are really important to the underlying platform, and it was the reason, or it was the inspiration originally to build on Smart Chain instead of Ethereum, where we could already speed up those transactions and start taking some of those opportunities. And I think on BSC is sort of like 9,000 compounds a year on something like our Cake Vault. And then we go on to Polygon, and as I say, we're able to sort of do 10 or 20 a minute. You can start doing the maths and see that this gets pretty exciting pretty quickly.
Exactly. What is Beefy's kind of multi-chain strategy, or what do you look at a chain?
Well, I mean, on a basic level, we look for an Ethereum virtual machine because, all of our devs are Solidity devs, and that means that they have the same coding environment. So everywhere we've gone so far has been in the EVM. And then secondly, we're looking for what platforms are already building on there. Are there lending protocols? Are there AMMs? Are there stablecoin platforms already being built? And can we make partnerships with them? And so we get approached by individual projects, and the biggest and the most credible projects come to us, and then we sort of learn who their partners are, and we get introductions through there. We're also quite close with like Polygon itself or the Phantom Foundation, and we look for introductions there as well. And then we're looking beyond the chains that we already have. So we're trying to sort of, I think it's Gretzky says, you've got to move to where the ball's going to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're really trying to do that with things like Arbitrum and making partnerships before we even arrive, so that we have vaults and are ready to go.
Exactly.
Perfect, yeah.
And it's skating to where the puck is going to be.
Oh yeah, wrong sport, I guess.
Oh, cool. You mentioned some of your devs. What does the Beefy team look like? Are you all kind of gathered in a similar area? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we are like a fully anon team. Some of our partnerships, like getting listed on Binance and things like that, involves like KYC for individual members, just to sort of push those things through. But by and large, we've never met. We don't know each other that well. The core team was a core team, but it was only like 3 or 4 people, and they launched back in September, and they vested all of their tokens. But after that, everybody else has just been attracted to the project, either because they like the mechanics or they bought the token early. And so it's kind of incredible how little we know about each other and how well we work together. But it's really a function of this shared goal, and the shared goal is, of course, growing Beefy and growing the value and the revenue of the token. But it's also kind of fitting with that original mission of like bringing DeFi to people who could actually benefit from it and not just being this Ethereum playground for whales. So a lot of us now kind of are whales because Beefy has been so successful.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we kind of come from slightly humbler beginnings. And yeah, it's just a great atmosphere. You know, we're mostly hanging out on Discord. We do some BD stuff on Telegram with outside projects, but we're almost like typing out every single decision in small groups, I would say, and it remains efficient. On the dev side, we have our core devs, which mostly came from the founding team, or at least the core of the founding team are really strong Solidity devs. But we also have this rewards mechanism whereby the devs that join the team, if they actually build a vault and that vault gets accepted and put onto the platform, they'll get a small percentage of the revenue that vault produces forever. So they're really motivated, and that's why we kind of reached the point where we have 5 chains and like 700 vaults. Because yeah,
Man, I want to make a vault. That's a pretty sweet deal.
I guess for all of the devs watching here, what does that process look like?
I mean, I'm not a dev, so I can't tell you it like inside out, but you know, it's pretty much open source. It's about proposing the vaults that you want to build via Discord or through a forum that we have specifically dedicated for that. And then whatever you're proposing is going to have some due diligence from the lead devs. Maybe it's a project we already know and therefore it's quicker, or maybe it's something brand new and you kind of have to get that due diligence done first. But then after that, you're really building the code and just submitting these pull requests for our devs to let them through. And you know, it's quite a sort of family feeling. I've seen devs come in, build 1 or 2 things, and now they're pretty embedded and they're seen as kind of lead devs themselves.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Great. Yeah.
I guess I did want to know, you know, why would users use Beefy as opposed to other similar platforms? What are kind of the innovations that you're making within Beefy?
I mean, I think like even before we get to the innovations, one of the main reasons would be the safety records, and you know, just sort of knowing how big this dev team is, how much we prioritize safety is probably a good reason to choose Beefy over similar platforms. But other than that, it's sort of this point I made at the beginning, which I think isn't totally intuitive for everybody. So it's worth saying again, is that when you stake your assets into Beefy, you're automatically going to earn more of what you staked. Mm-hmm. So on some platforms, I mean, I'll take an old example, and I don't know if they've changed, but like when Badger DAO was released and you could stake wrap Bitcoin, you actually earn a lot of these Badger tokens. And then, of course, these Badger tokens can like fall in value. You have to watch the market. You have to kind of convert them back to Bitcoin if you think that's the right thing to do. So you have like all of these extra steps and all of these extra risks if you use a optimizer platform that relies on rewarding its own token. Whereas Beefy kind of does the opposite. It takes something like Badger DAO, which is giving out this kind of promotional coin, and will just sell it into more wrapped Bitcoin. So you end up with like a much simpler and actually a lot more efficient experience with Beefy. So this is kind of the main selling point. And then I would say the third thing is because we've done our reward token in that way, in the sense of not being tied to your optimization, but actually tied only to the governance and to the revenue of the Beefy platform. Yeah. It means we're not giving away that Beefy token for free to anybody. We only give it to people who stake into the Beefy Maxi Vault. And then the way that we reward them is that we actually go out and buy Beefy off the open market on AMMs automatically every day from the revenue that's generated from all of those other vaults. So when people start to get their head around those two things, they kind of really get sucked into Beefy and tend not to leave.
There's some solid economics there.
Yeah, for real. Tokenomics are so important in this space. I love to hear it. What right now, high yield farming is a really big thing. like what do you see as being next? Where is Beefy going, or where is that puck that you're skating towards?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the really high yield stuff mostly comes from new platforms being created, right? So they've created a new business model slightly different to other people. And one of the things they want to do is attract users to that and give away this reward token, which we can usually take and auto compound back into the asset that you actually want to stake. So in a sense, this probably won't go away because there's always going to be innovation and there's always going to be people trying to create the next best thing. And as long as we've done our due diligence, we can bring that onto the platform and generate high yields. But those high yields are usually quite quick, like they go away quite quickly, and then you need another new platform to try and have the same mechanics. In terms of long term, I think I look at it like this: things like lending, as you guys are building, and also AMMs, decentralized exchanges. These two things are not going to go away. Like the people have reinvented finance here, and the user growth is just going to continue to grow. So those two things will always generate some yield for the users. There's always going to be AMM yield. There's always going to be yield surrounding lending. And there's probably like more financial products and models that we haven't even seen disrupted yet. And many of them will also have some sort of liquidity need or some sort of reward mechanism that Beefy can probably come in and build upon. So we don't need to invent those things. We just need to keep our eyes open for the right partners and or hope that they approach us like you guys did, so that we can build those partnerships and start earning for our users. Our mission or our vision won't really change within that. We're just going to continue to try and be the safest and most efficient platform for people to take advantage of those opportunities. We do have like a few things up our sleeve, which we're not actually too public about our roadmap. We have like, I mean, you must know it, like there's a lot of copy pasting that goes on in the DeFi world. And sometimes can be pretty ruinous for users. So we have 2 or 3 things that we're also building behind the scenes, but we will launch them fully formed, and people will be able to jump in as soon as they're live.
Perfect.
Oh, cool. Any little teasers?
I mean, if you go to the Beefy Twitter right now and look at the last tweets, you'll see a few tweets about moonpot.com, and I would say this is gonna go live pretty soon. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Perfect. You guys got it down there, the Twitter, so make sure to check them out. So yeah, you guys have a lot of partnerships. I feel like that's kind of like the center of what you guys are doing. What do you look for in a partner? What qualifies as a good partner?
I mean, going back to the simple stuff, like it's really about passing the due diligence on the first stage. We actually do that first before we dig too deeply into the project, because most projects are reasonably interesting, right? Like if someone's got like already built their code base and then they have a UI and they're trying to like put something out onto the world, it's probably worth us taking a look. So we get approached through our Discord, through introductions of people like Polygonmatic or Phantom, whatever. And then we have a short chat with them, check out what they're doing in terms of their overall model or overall tokenomics. And then we actually send the code, the smart contracts, to our devs. And, some of the things that we're looking for it's pretty repetitive stuff that we need to check out. It's things around like the master chef control and how quickly they could make changes to their code. It's also about how well locked up are things like their reward tokens, so they couldn't either inflate them overnight when everybody's sleeping, and it doesn't have to be malicious, right? Like these things can happen from bad actors, but they can also just happen like through bad luck, getting flash loan and things. So we're looking for things in their code that might suggest those things are possible, and then we're like just going line by line, asking them to make changes. And so once they pass through those things, we're pretty good to go. Like we're not going to like definitely say like this is a great platform, this is a bad platform. We're more going to say like this is a platform where we've done our due diligence and we want to start working with them. So it's more about creating this layer of safety for our users and being agnostic than trying to pick favorites. But then at the same time, it's good to get into conversations like today and to know the projects a little bit more and actually learn about some of the individual ways that we can support each other or whether we can meet each other's community. So like with Pangolin last week on Avalanche, they actually put together a governance vote to add PNG rewards to Beefy. And because we knew them well, we were able to get them onto a chat, have a little AMA with them, and we were able to get our crowd to quickly go over to their governance vote. And we got quorum within about 10 minutes of them tweeting it out because we have those deeper partnerships.
Exactly. So I guess for between QiDao and Beefy, we already have the votes. How do you see maybe us doing more together?
Yeah, so I think we've known each other like probably just 1 or 2 weeks, and the due diligence happened, and the devs are already vaulting a couple of pairs that you have on QuickSwap, I think, with pretty good wise if people want to check those out on the Polygon chain of Beefy. But of course, like you're a lending platform, and it's quite interesting to us to learn. And maybe it's good if you actually talk about it a bit more than me, because you will be informed on this. It's about if you're becoming collateral for your platform, and maybe you could just tell, because I'm sure there's some community listeners how that works and what it would actually look like for governance and what would be the benefits to us if it went through.
Yeah, so we're starting a pretty exciting time here at QiDao where we're going to be starting adding a lot more collateral types. Every week, we're going to start launching new QIPs, which is our QiDao improvement proposals. And those are going to decide what collateral is going to be added the week after. So what's coming immediately now is the Matic vaults, so compounding Aave market Matic vaults, where you'll get to deposit these yield-bearing Matic tokens into our vaults and then mint my. But yeah, sky's the limit. As long as a collateral token has a Chainlink Oracle, that's something that's very important. All it takes is the community to vote for it. Do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to come down to the community's vote. Everything that we do here at QiDao, it's based off of what the community wants. And so, like Ben said, weekly votes will come out for choosing a collateral type. If you've got a Chainlink Oracle, if you've got, most likely the community is going to look at, is there liquidity on Polygon as well. It'll just come down to their hands.
Yeah, and we can also do other partnerships. I think the community can look at a variety of things. Like liquidity is one, how we are partnering with that like protocol, be it incentives to lock up their collateral tokens, be it other things that we're doing aside from that. Yeah, there's just so much I think that can be done with that.
Yeah, I think it gives Beefy holders or any project token holders a lot more utility with that token, so they can lock it up, they can mint stablecoin against it, and then use that stablecoin for whatever they want. So now if you have bills that you want to pay, you don't have to go and sell your Beefy. You can just lock it up, borrow some MAI against it, go pay your bills, and if Beefy goes 2-3x's the next day, hey, great, you didn't have to sell it, you kept your Beefy, and we're able to still use its value
at 0% interest, right? So you don't have to worry about those payments.
Yeah, really interesting. How are you able to offer 0%? Like, where is the business model for
Yeah. So like if you think about it, like traditionally when somebody charges interest, it's because there's that fear of default. But if you're borrowing against your own tokens, you're the one taking the risk, right? That you won't be able to pay your loans back. But in terms of our like business models, like cash flows, we do charge a repayment fee. So at the time that you repay your debt, you pay a 0.5% fee on that debt. But what's cool about the debt is that it never changes in value, right? If I borrow 100 MAI today, no matter what happens to my, for example, Beefy collateral, my debt will always be that. So with that, you can have your entire upside, and you're not really being charged on that upside. We also have some other fees that are involved, like our USDC swap fee and our deposit fee for for rewards, but that's some other stuff outside the vaults.
And another thing to note is that you can't borrow the 100%, like 100% of the value of your collateral. You can borrow up to 2/3 of its value, which that leaves a good amount of buffer. And if you drop below 150% collateral to debt ratio, your vault does become risky, and it's now available to be partially liquidated, which means somebody would come in, pay back some of your debt. They would take some of your collateral, in this case, Beefy, plus a little bit of a bonus. So at the end,
being like 7%.
yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end, the liquidator would get some profit, and then the person being liquidated, they're only hit with about a 6 to 7% penalty.
Yeah, interesting. And so, how does the QIPs work? Like, is it about the projects having an amount of your tokens in order to kick it off, or are all of the proposals coming internally for adding something like Beefy collateral?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, like we'll have a list of the possible, collaterals that we can accept, and that's going to be based on, is there a Chainlink Oracle, right? And so every week we'll have like a list of all these tokens that can be added, and the Chi holders will come into the snapshot vote and choose and rank, what do they want to be added, and then the top token is going to be added for that next week. That's kind of how the process works.
Yeah, really nice. Okay, we'll keep an eye out for that then.
Absolutely. And then also starting off, there's going to be a QIP as well about incentivizing vaults.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if the community decides to incentivize these vaults using Chi. But then also we've been talking to a few different projects about them also incentivizing the vaults as well. So if that is the case, you would be looking at being rewarded to borrow.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, when you give the list of tokens that can be voted by the community, would probably add information like if a certain token is giving something particular, we'll add that information because that's relevant for people making their decision.
Got it. Nice.
Yeah. Any other mini questions about that? We don't want to talk too much about us. We've got you on here, so.
No, I think this is good. I came in a little bit blind to that topic, and so you answering it for me probably helps whoever's listening as well. So thanks for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I guess kind of going with the theme of talking about MAIG and collaterals and everything. What are your thoughts on stable coins in general? Like algo stable coins, over collateralized stable coins. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, it's a big topic, right? And I think that, I mean, stable coins in general have been one of the instigators for the success of DeFi, and then you could extend that to crypto. Binance itself, when it started, was allowing this trading with stable coins, and this was just a new route into crypto that didn't really exist before, and that's where their growth came from. Now, of course, most of the stable coins at the beginning were collateralized, or at least that's what they told us. So we have to believe that those dollars are sitting in the bank somewhere, and that's worked out so well so far. And then you have these more interesting things, these algorithmic ones, and some of them have been pretty robust. Things like DAI, and I would need to learn more about MAI to be able to say the same thing, but I'm sure you have the similar intentions there. And then we've seen these like really exotic ones that haven't always worked out, and we've seen some failures quite recently with quite ambitious stablecoin projects. But every project is kind of learning from that, and we put these up onto Beefy as an opportunity for people to engage with, and that's where a lot of these very, very high return, high yield opportunities have come. And of course, we just advise people to do their own research. We're only doing our due diligence on the terms of like, is it safe, and like, can these things be abused? And normally they cannot. But even when they cannot be abused, they might have some loop in their logic that actually allows them to have failure. And so we really recommend, if people are going to get into these extremely algorithmic stable coins, that they check out what's going on and actually go and visit the projects and talk to people at the projects and not just see these like 10 million or even trillion APYs and think that it's going to last all year, because it's probably not, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, it's important to focus on the economics as much as the code, right? It is decentralized finance in the end, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, we have some experience in that, but we also have 700 volts, and so we're going to start with safety first and let
Right.
the users look at some of those economics. But another thing that we're doing at Beefy, and this is actually very close to launch, and I don't think it's a secret anymore, we're about to launch the V2 of our own user interface. And this V2 UI is going to be a lot more educational, and we're going to give things like safety scores for each of these vaults, and they will have you know, input from our devs and also input from some of the tokenomics and some of the things like, you know, how widely held is this asset and things like this, and this will create a safety score. And so the higher the safety score, maybe the less risky it is for people to start using that APY. And I think this will just be like an additional indicator, because most of the research that our users do is kind of offsite at the moment. Maybe they come to our Discord, maybe they go to the Telegram group or the Twitter of the partner. But we're going to try and give some of that educational content on Beefy itself. And so people, it's a benefit for us. They don't have to leave to make an investment decision. And it's a benefit for the user because all of that information is there. But maybe I'll ask you guys again to give us a little bit of information about the My stablecoin and how it works for QiDao.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think education is very important in DeFi right now, especially trying to get new users in there. I mean, just in general, DeFi can be a scary place with all these fancy terminologies, and I love the fact that you are focusing in on educating people and helping them make better decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And that will be live pretty soon. So keep your eyes out for that one as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye. I think that would be pretty interesting to see how those scores stand up.
Exactly. A few more questions. I guess what excites you about the future of DeFi going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see if the opportunities remain as attractive as adoption grows. Because at the moment, like the people, we're early adopters. You can make a lot of money quite quickly if you make good decisions, and you can make a reasonable amount of money by doing almost nothing. And so it will be interesting what that looks like in 5 years' time if everything becomes a little bit more conservative. Because what excites me is just when a friend just has that kind of realization that they shouldn't leave their money in the bank anymore. And this is just happening more and more and more. Like, of course, because I've been in the space for 5 years, I have friends who turn to me and want to do those things, and you know, just see their eyes light up. Like when you see like a 40% return on a stable coin, like this is really a dollar, right? Like you're going to get 40% on your dollar. It's almost unbelievable. And I just wonder if it's going to remain unbelievable, because I mean, I have a sort of feeling inside that those gains can't really continue. Like you can't get 40% on the dollar in 20 years time. But maybe there's so much inefficiencies and there is, right, there's so much imbalance in the system of capital. And so what these DeFi protocols are doing is democratizing a lot of that. So things like Beefy being completely owned by its users and owned by its developers, and not really having offices, not having to have security guards or champagne breakfast, means that some of those inefficiencies are going away, right? And that's why the returns are there. And so I'm just going to be curious as time goes on, like how much space is there for profit when these things are 100% efficient, and it's going to be more than the 1% your bank gives you for sure.
Right. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how also, this new way of organizing companies affects like non-financial companies. Being able to be decentralized, owned by both the employees, investors, users, all in like some kind of like a collaborative setup. I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I think with DeFi, one of the reasons why it works in these like DAO mechanisms is because the profit or the revenue is kind of baked in from the start. Like if you have a protocol that works and you have good tokenomics, you can launch today, have users by the end of the week, and have money to pay the devs and the community like in the same month. Whereas like business models that rely on supply chains or services or locations, like how easy is it going to be able to do those in a decentralized way when the money is much less connected to the business?
Right. Yeah,
And I
there's
don't
a
know,
bit of innovation to be done, I think, in order to do that.
but we are probably and your team as well are kind of making those first steps for all organizations, because we also have to work out other things like how do you do HR when you've never met the person, how do you pay someone when they live in a different country to where the business is, and you don't want to rely on PayPal or whatever, you know. So like some of those things are getting solved, and some of them are getting solved in really optimal ways, and some of them are just sort of like back of the envelope, work it out
Right.
as you go. So yeah, I think that's, we as like DeFi companies will probably lead some of that, but I'm interested, as you say, to see what happens when it's non-DeFi projects trying to use the same DAO kind of principles and models. And I've seen a few interesting things, you know, design studios trying to do that, and there's like Meta Factory, which is making really high quality t-shirts in an ethical way, and it's exactly the same. They don't know each other, but they all just work on Discord and they produce really high quality products, you know.
Yeah.
I love that. That gets me jazzed. That gets me excited. um, do you have any ask for the Polygon community?
I mean, not directly. I mean, come and check Beefy if you're not using it already. And I would say like, yeah, that's a little bit selfish, but I really do really think that people need to dig into these optimization platforms and actually have a look at what's going on under the hood, and both in terms of safety, but both in terms of like what you're actually earning. And it would be great if the people who do discover the most optimized platforms actually share that and don't just keep all the revenue for themselves. But no, like just it's a bit banal, but just keep building, and we're gonna keep an eye on what's being built, and we're gonna integrate the best platforms as quickly as we can.
What's the best way for projects to get in contact with you?
Yeah, definitely. Discord is the best place for projects coming to us. It's very lively there. You know, there's thousands and thousands of people, and it's pretty open. So if you go into general on there or community or yeah, the community chat is pretty lively.
I mispronounced it, but I just got it.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's funny.
That does
and
lead me to a question. Oh,
sure.
go ahead, finish off.
No, just start talking, you know, and very, we're kind of like a little bit like a swarm. Like we'll identify who needs to be talked to, and the introductions will get made very quickly if it's like a credible product coming in.
Perfect.
Okay, so what is with the cows?
Look, I was not there when the cow theme was decided, but it's holding up pretty well. I guess it's like about growing your yield and you know, cows being a little bit productive, but also, you know, beefing up your profits and all of those things. I think it's become a really nice internal meme. Like you see my name, you see that we have the community. Like our lead devs are like Sir Beef a lot and Super Beefy Boy. So, you know, it's definitely cohesive within Beefy Finance. This cow theme. I think like there's elements where it could be more useful to have a very grown-up name, you know, when we're trying to attract tens of millions or hundreds of millions of TVLs from institutions to come and use our platform. But it's working pretty well, and we're definitely never going to change it. So as sort of lead marketer over at Beefy, I've got to find ways to present or help the DAO present itself to all different users, because some people can look at Beefy and think it's another meme coin, it's a food coin, but actually, you know, we're looking after $500 million worth of of user funds, and we have this really strong safety track record. So it's all good with the beef. Let's just say that.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Who else would you like to see come on one of these fireside chats?
I mean, I don't know if you are like fully focused on Polygon, but PancakeSwap is a really interesting project. They're pretty mysterious guys and very successful, and I think like talking about how they have managed to grow the same amount of growth that like Sushi has done on Ethereum and Polygon versus what they've done only on BSC would be a really, really interesting conversation, I think. So yeah, not the easiest team to reach, but if you can reach them, I think that would be an interesting chat for you guys.
Gotcha. Perfect. And then we do have a community question that came in. The boost on my USDC was awesome. Can you extend it?
That's someone from our community asking that, actually. That's one of our mods. I don't know if he means like we boost it again or whether you add more rewards, but
I guess that's a conversation to be still had.
Yeah, cheers, Fran, anyway. But yeah, there's always going to be boosts on Polygon, and I think there's another BSC boost coming up.
No, fantastic.
Perfect.
Oh, and then he says
Cheers.
He says cheers as well.
Cheers, Fran.
No, fantastic. I had a great time chatting. We always love learning more about projects, and then also the people that are behind the project. So thank you so much for giving us your time. And then we look forward to just working with you more in depth.
Yeah, thank you both for your time, and thanks for talking a little bit about those tricky questions around collateral. I think that's really interesting for us to learn as users as much as a platform. And yeah, keep us in the loop with those QIPs, and we'll try and get the community over there holding some assets and getting the votes through.
Oh,
Perfect.
Fantastic. Love it.
Right. Cheers, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Talk soon.